Great way to start. Let's keep moving. Next up, we have Amplify Games. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Blockchain K2 Corp, which trades on the OTCQB under the symbol BIDCF. Amplify uses blockchain technology to solve problems with technology that will empower the future of digital game distribution and promotion. Tony Caputo is joining us today. Tony is the CEO of Amplify Games, and he is with us. Tony, hello.
Hello, thanks, Anna.
Good morning. Take it away, Tony.
Good morning. So thanks for that intro. It was actually really cool to see the last bit of verb there, and I think connecting communities is what's so exciting about these kind of products, and we're doing something similar here in that we're taking game distribution and promotion and bringing it to communities and connecting it all with blockchain technology. And so what I really want to introduce is what the issue is here of what we're kind of doing. And so this is why we're doing it, right? You can see from this graphic on the right that the monetization in the game market is broken, and the way that it's broken is you can see that little blue icon in the middle. That's a game that somebody's publishing. You know, a developer has worked on this for maybe years. They're bringing it to market, and you can see that little kind of dot. You got a couple influencers that are maybe streaming your game. You know, see people talking about it on YouTube. You've done some sales, you have some gamers that are connected to you, but in large part, the market is really obscured from you. It's completely untapped. You're unable to connect, because let's be honest, if you're a small studio of a few people, maybe you're one person making a game. You know, games like Minecraft started with just a couple people, and now they're, you know, multi-billion-dollar franchises through Microsoft. And so you can't individually connect with this massive market of streamers, of gamers, of stores, of communities out there that maybe are talking about games in different ways. And so what you really have is this maybe great game that's super fun to play, super viral potential, but you've got no way to really get out there. And you can kind of think about this in a couple different ways. You know, that like they don't even have their games sold on their own store. And so, you know, less than 10% are on their website. So think about this. On their website, they don't even sell their own games. And that seems crazy that you don't have a store for your own games that you make to sell. And so forget about reaching the mass market with your game if you can't even sell it on your own store. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but primarily it's just that, hey, these guys are small and these guys are creating games. And so you see really the way that people are successful is really in two ways. The first one is that your Electronic Arts or your Microsoft or your Sony or your Nintendo, right? And you have billions of dollars and you have super well-known franchises like, you know, Halo, Mario, you know, FIFA, you know, Fortnite, and then you throw millions and millions of dollars and you have massive marketing teams and teams of people to do advertising, and you see, that's why we see it everywhere, right? You know, like you can go on TV and you can see commercials for these games, and you see it all over the internet in advertisements and different things. And so, so really, I mean, that's a model that you could never compete with unless you're the most massive game developers. Even people that sell $50 to $100 million worth of games don't have that kind of reach, you know, a year. And so the other group of success stories is things like, you can think about Minecraft, Roblox, and that's big in the news right now. Just did an IPO, super successful. Or even one that was also more recent, Among Us, which I know probably if folks have kids or or young enough yourself, you're playing that, and it's been huge viral success. And those guys took a long time to be successful, and they just got lucky along the way. They were great games from the start. You know, that's always the prerequisite. You can't be a terrible game. Maybe on mobile you can, but you generally can't be a terrible game and be successful. But it took a while, and there were a lot of twists and turns along the way where they might not have made it. And you can kind of think of the same thing of like these actors that come out of nowhere that are like, oh wow, you're super successful. Oh, you got on The Office. Like, where did you come from? And you're amazing. And how many more people like that are just don't get that opportunity? And so what you end up having is you end up having this kind of whole group of games that are fantastic, you know, amazingly creative, innovative, all kinds of great stuff about them, but they're sitting at this low level because they can't get that exposure that's going to get them to the next level. Because what happens? It's a snowball effect. It's not that you get in one place. Each time that might be your opportunity to become a hit. Now PC Gamer starts talking about you, or you talk about on Reddit, or social media and all kinds of stuff, and then you get the chance to really hit those highs. And a game like Among Us is a perfect example of this problem. Is they actually came out about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, and so we've mainly heard about it, unless you happen to be one of the few, the early. It's kind of like a band, right? If you're one of the ones that saw them like in a little coffee house playing. But they sat for a long time and just were doing okay sales, nothing stratospheric like we saw. And then one streamer who had about 1 million or 2 followers decided, hey, I'm going to stream this game, and it just grew and became a phenomenon after that. And so what Amplify is doing is really connecting that market that's disconnected. And so you can think about this as a massive network of stakeholders. When you think about stakeholders from game studios, influencers and streamers, communities, stores, and gamers that all share the same incentives. So in the world today, there's sometimes competing incentives, right? I may be a streamer, but what am I going to do? I'm going to ask you to give me money up front to sponsor your product. And we've seen this a million times. People doing sponsored spots on YouTube and other places. And so what you have now, if we kind of look through it, you got the game studio, and he's uploading his game to the network, right? What's their incentive? They want to sell their game. They want to connect with their community. That's the big thing there. Get their game out to as much people as possible. Because why do people make games? Yeah, to make money, but people make games to share. Why do you make art, right? To share their creativity with the world, create something fun. And the influencers, what do the influencers want? Well, they need content. We think about they have the power in the sponsorship relationship, but also they need to talk about stuff and be relevant and find something unique. If you're the person that, we've seen this sometimes where they'll pick an indie game, right? And maybe the streamer or influencer has, let's say, 500,000 subscribers, 1 million subscribers, but we've seen it where one video can get like 100 million views. And this is because they're one of the early ones that found some really cool game or something else, and now they get to enjoy that uplift of the game being really successful and keep talking about it and being one of those people, I found this thing, And so they need content. They also need revenue. I think we all know that ads a lot of times are not the greatest. YouTube ads or Google ads are not the greatest revenue stream, and it can change dramatically as YouTube changes their algorithm or changes the way that they pay out. And so you always see influencers try to diversify as much as they can, whether that's selling merch, doing sponsored spots, anything like that. So in the Amplify model, they get to talk about the games that they already like. They don't have to talk about some sponsorship that they don't really care about, but they got to take the money because they want to maintain their career or build their company. They can be like, hey, I have fun playing this game. I want to talk about it, and I get a revenue share. That's the key in Amplify. You connect through revenue sharing. So it's not an upfront sponsorship cost that these small developers have to pay. It's, hey, check out my game. I think it's got a lot of potential for your community. The influencer says, oh yeah, you're right. This is a game that's like, a survival type game, or this is a sports type game, or this is a shooter type game. I might like it. Let me check it out. Oh, it's actually kind of cool. Let me talk about it on my stream. Let me stream it. Let me make a video about it. And now they can earn a percentage of every sale that happens through people that are on their channel going and buying that game. And now, as you take a step out, you see these yellow stores, right, connected to a ton of gamers, and these are the gaming communities. These are folks. Right now, games are sold on, maybe you might only be selling your game on a couple stores. The biggest ones are maybe 20, 25 stores potentially, which seems nuts in the world of the internet and how prolific everything is online. And so now you think of, like, let's take an example of a gaming community. You have, hey, maybe we're pretty big. We get like 1 million visits a month on this gaming community. We talk about all kinds of games on our forum. We have some news. We may have some community events or something like that together. And we talk about certain kinds of games that really are our focus. And so how do they make money, right? Maybe Patreon, something like that, possibly, maybe, or Google ad revenue off their website. And that's kind of the extent of it. And now you take this model and we say, hey, all right, we're like the Shopify for video games, right? Amplify has the 2 key parts is customizable stores that you can create with a built-in catalog. The difference here is you don't have to go and build your catalog of games, which would be impossible for these communities to do on their own. But now you can sell and you can make a percentage off of every sale as your community, and influencers can drive traffic that you're close to that community to sell those games. And so now you're have really high engagement because you're a community that focuses on certain types of games. So guess what? If I'm a community that talks about soccer games and somebody comes out with something cool, of course we're going to play it. Of course we're going to check it out and be excited about it. We're going to be waiting for it to come out, with the news. And then what we're going to do, we're going to buy it, we're going to play it, we're going to stream it, we're going to all these kind of things in this community. And so you can see how everybody is working together for this same goal of, let's get the game out there, let's get that exposure, let's get sales, let's talk about it, let's have fun. And it's so natural. It doesn't seem forced. It doesn't seem like, oh, I got to do this thing just to make money. It's no, I love this game. I want to talk about it. I want to sell it. And so you can see from the model here, really as it spreads out, the studio uploads it to one place. It can be promoted by hundreds of influencers that talk about this game. Imagine that kind of exposure. Now instead of maybe you get tens of thousands or 100,000 eyeballs, you can get millions and millions of eyeballs on maybe hundreds of millions depending how popular you are. Now it's sold throughout a ton of different communities, thousands of stores throughout various communities, and then ultimately it can be viewed by millions or hundreds of millions of gamers potentially. And so you could see how but we always call them like movies, right? You see these like cult classics, right? How did it become a cult classic? Well, there was a community that really loved it, and then they talked about it, and it started to get out into the wider audience, and then it became something really big. And so in the same way, you could see these communities that are really avid gamers and really love a particular type of game, like, oh wow, it's popular over there, and we could even do some things inside the network to be like, what, it's really popular over here. There's some other communities that also are interested in the same kind of games, through the data that we have in the network. And oh, you know what? Let's feature it over there. Let's tell these guys about this game because I think it's going to be a huge hit. And so as we look at this this model and we look at it throughout the market, we can see that this is a huge market. I mean, gaming is just massive. It's over 150 billion total market. If you include mobile. And the part we're really focusing on is the digital space. And so this is PC games, this is console games. And the real beauty of what we're doing here is that I know there's a lot of projects, especially when you throw the word blockchain in there, that are more aspirational towards the future. And certainly we are. Certainly there's amazing things we can do once as we're getting out there and as we're growing and inserting ourselves into more places in the market. But you don't have to upend your entire model of selling games and what kind of games you sell, or users of where you play your games and buy your games. We are able to sell, there's some big Steam or Epic, game store, the Microsoft store, the Windows store, the Sony's online, all these games, Nintendo, we can sell any kind of digital title. So we're not limited to just like amplified, type games only. It's like, no, we're going to sell everything that's already out there that you play today. This is not a play where you have to like get used to what we are offering. And no, you sell your stuff on Steam today, you can sell that same Steam key on Amplify as well. And so the markets are growing. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that everybody knows digital is the future. You can see how streaming is. I always remember, I'm still pretty young, but I can still remember, I'm that like, hey, people are watching games instead of playing them. This kind of amazed me when I first saw it, and then now I'm like, oh yeah, actually it's kind of cool. I'll watch someone play a game because they're funny, entertaining, and it's this whole different model of entertainment. And this is what we're really tapping into. We're enabling those guys to really be successful. And so you can think about that as taking advantage of the areas that are really growing in the market. And of course, just to touch on NFTs here, we'll get to that a little later. That's a key part of really what we're doing in gaming. And it's not like, hey, an NFT is hot, let's throw that into our product. It's like gaming lends itself naturally to NFTs. It's already there. It just doesn't have the name, right? Maybe it's not blockchain, but they're still doing the same kind of thing with limited and unique items inside games. And so as we look at the way that we're going to grow, and this is kind of this natural flow that I was talking about before. You have a game studio, puts their game in a catalog. There's influencers that want to talk about games. There's stores that need to sell games. This is not something we're telling them, hey, you got to change the way, you got to change the fundamental way that this is working. It's like we're changing the way you're connecting and all that kind of stuff. We're making everything more efficient, but ultimately it feels somewhat familiar enough that they're like, oh, great, no, I can see how this could be really exciting and really launch my game. And so, we're going to pilot with a few game studios that are already ready to go. To put it in the catalog, get it out of the network, pilot with some influencers that are on board, and they'll promote the game. They'll make money from a revenue share. Community stores that sell the game will make money off a revenue share, and ultimately more money for the game studios to make more games. Because ultimately that's what they're there for. They're not there to be experts at every single part of business. They're small companies, and so they need a little help to be like, we're going to make a fantastic product, and we're going to help you get it out to the market and to the right places. And so as they see increased sales, this wheel just keeps spinning, because as you see your competitor doing something interesting that's generating more sales and more exposure for them, what do you want to do? You want to hop on that same train and do the same thing that they're doing. And so one of the most important things about, you see the little handshake in the middle, is that they already have existing relationships today. Now, obviously, one game studio doesn't have a relationship with 1,000 influencers, right? But there's a handful of people, and some, that number varies depending on how big. Maybe they don't have any relationships, but if you're an influencer and you're like, hey, this one game that I'm playing is giving me 5%, 10%, 15% revenue share through like an affiliate type program in Amplify, and this other game I don't get anything from, and I just get YouTube ad revenue. I just play it because I like it. Well, what are you going to do? You're gonna ask that other studio, hey, look, there's a really cool product out there, Amplify Games, and let's get started on it. Let's use it. I've had great success with it. I've seen a lot more people, buying the games through that model. And so the studios are the same way. I have one influencer working with me on Amplify. I want all my influencers working with me on Amplify because they're going to promote it in ways that I don't think we even fully can comprehend what they're going to do. We had one studio that was like, I'm gonna give them like a 95% revenue cut, right? What would happen if they did that? These just things that you have no idea what they're going to do once they're out there, but we know it's going to drive a lot more traffic to places to buy the game and more exposure for those gamers. And so, as we look at like how's that actually going to work? How are we going to grow this? How's it going to impact the market? And we don't have to gather customers one by one. And this is really important, because we're talking to, certainly our message is going to get to gamers through other parties, through influencers and through communities, but we're talking to owners of communities, we're talking to influencers that have big followings, we're talking to stores that have already a customer base. And so every time we go to someone and say, hey, look, or they come to us, right? A lot of it will be self-service. If they're just like, I'm going to go to Amplify, I'm going to get a store, I'm going to start selling games, or I'm going to get affiliate, set up as an influencer. And so you can see how a lot of high value integrations, we could acquire a lot of customers all at once. And so it's not a big change for them. They're seeing a brand that they know and trust already. And this brand is now saying, hey, look, support us in this additional way by buying games on our store, right? Or like, hey, you know what, when I'm talking about this game as a streamer or influencer, you know what, click this link or go to this place and buy the game here, because that helps support me and it's no skin off your back. And of course, we want to support the people that we trust and that we love watching and that we love interacting in the community. And so this really is the driver of growth, and it's such a low friction growth model where we're doing all the heavy lifting. There's not a lot of risk in there for them in terms of, hey, you want to do another affiliate program? Great. If it doesn't land, no big deal. It's not like, it doesn't really work for you. It's not a big problem. But this is like, why wouldn't it work? We're not asking you to do anything that's going to, sacrifice your integrity as an influencer, as a community. We're just saying, hey, the stuff you're already doing, just make more money off of it. Like take out the inefficiencies that are happening. Stop giving away your stuff for free. And you may think, all right, well, on the influencer side, that sounds great. But like as a game studio, do I want to give a portion of my revenue to an influencer? Like I'm not doing that today. Maybe why would I want to do that? One of the first developers that we talked to, he was like, no, absolutely. I want to give back to them selfishly because it makes them promote my stuff more, but also, you know, altruistically in that, hey, we're in this together. I love that you're promoting my game. I want to give back a little bit of the success that you've gave me. You know, I had a story where a guy released a game, and actually a YouTuber from Spain bought a house, you know, down payment on a house from the money he earned just off YouTube advertising from talking about this game. You know, it was millions and millions of views across a bunch of videos. And so the guy was like, hey, I wish I could have given him 5% or something of the cut, you know, and really incentivized that and gave him a bigger share of what I was doing, because that's the relationship they have. You know, it's even bigger companies still have this kind of like down to earth. There's not a lot of like in the gaming world until you get to the super big guys. There's not a lot of that corporate, you know, that same sort of corporate indifference, you know, that you can find at like Electronic Arts maybe, where there's a whole bunch of bureaucracy. It's a more tight knit community than that. And so we're really just connecting with them where they are. You know, the traction that we're getting from people. We have you can see on the right here. There's just some cool icons of a lot of the studios that we're already working with, and a little bit of you know, Game Studio Network there on the left is the information, some stats about you know, how much they've sold over time and all that kind of thing. And then you know, some key partners here. The IGDA is the International Game Developer Association, and this is the largest association of game developers in the world with over 30,000 members. And you got everybody from the one guy who does games on the weekends to, you know, some very big studios that are in there. And then the Blockchain Game Alliance. And these guys are really on the cutting edge. You have folks like Ubisoft and Microsoft in there, and AMD, doing things that are like, hey, what's the next generation of how we integrate technology into games? And so both these organizations are really excited about what we're doing. The IGDA especially, in terms of their mission, is to uplift game developers and game studios to make great games and to become successful and actually have a career, rather than it just being like, hey, I'm a weekend warrior and I never can get over that hump, even though something I'm doing is really cool. So you can see how that kind of all fits together with our model of connecting communities and connecting studios and connecting influencers together. And so the same way, influencers, I mean, these guys are always looking for diversifying their revenue. Like I was saying, you know, through like sponsorships or merch or whatever. And so we've got a relationship with a bunch of them that are really interested in what we're doing, as well as some you know, some communities and marketplaces and networks. And I think the whole marketplace idea is really interesting, because you can do a lot of cool stuff today. They already do some selling of digital items within games. And you could easily see tomorrow, you know, I'm sure there's blockchain games that are working on this already. There are blockchain games that have worked on this already, and you know, real games outside of maybe like a CryptoKitties or that sort of thing, that are creating NFTs inside their games and allowing people to exchange them and creating this whole other market that doesn't exist today, you know, of being able to sell items or you know, a piece of armor, a gun, or a gem, something special within the game that makes your character unique. Potentially that it's kind of amazing how gamers really tap into that. You know, I've played some games where it's like the look of their character. You know, they'll sacrifice maybe some stats on their gear, right, to maybe not be as good, because it coordinates and it looks really cool when you're walking around the world and you're seeing other people in the world. So you know, it's always amazing to me how much power that has in a game of how you look and what's unique. And so just to quickly go through what the model is, you know, we talked about Shopify for video games. You know, we have the white label customizable stores. Game studios won't be charged anything, you know, for their for stores that they host themselves, you know, on their website. We'll simply take a sales fee like we do on anything else you can see on the right. We get up to 15%. So we actually have, it's not a razor thin margin business, because today there's a 30% or 35% margin taken on either, you know, store aggregators or stores themselves. And so now we're taking that 30% and we're splitting it up and giving some back to each of the stakeholders that are then going to promote the games and going to make this more successful. And so you can see how influencers can earn up to 25%. You know, we kind of put a cap there. We can certainly go get people to go more. Like I said, 95% if somebody wants to do something crazy. But we want to try to keep a lid on some of it. And store owners too can earn, I mean, a huge margin, 10 to 15% off of sales on their stores, their community stores, ways to get revenue way outside of what Google Ads would give them. And as well, we have some optional features that they can add onto games, with a range, of featured and that sort of thing. And then we charge the community stores, 10 to 250 a month. It's similar to the Shopify kind of model that they would be used to, if they've seen that. And that's more about just keeping that steady revenue around, making sure we're not giving stores away to places that are really not generating a lot of sales. But certainly we'll have a free tier as well to get them in the door. And then if they want additional features, they can go up the stack as they move. And so this, we kind of take that audience graph that you saw before and translate this back into, hey, how are we going to generate sales on this platform? And what are all those numbers in the business model mean as we aggregate them together? And so you can see as we, 2021 is going to be, the release time, and we're going to be a lot of beta pilot, even a little after. It's going to be a lot of promotional stuff that we do to get it out there. No fees, no subscription costs, for the stores and all that, to really get us out there and say, hey, try this out. It's fantastic. It's going to make you a lot more money, and you can really move forward there with your business. And so as we just look through the right here, you can see the stats around. 225 million in sales is really, it seems like a big number, but in the gaming market, they were in the market that we're playing in, it's 45 billion is the sales this year. And so while we're somewhat modest, right, it could be higher, but we're saying, hey, this is definitely achievable by connecting into the right places and getting that audience really to adopt what you're doing and get on board with supporting the people that they already know and love. It's not about Amplify, it's about their community and their influencer that they want to buy games from. And so this is just a little of the math behind the scenes, as we were modeling this out. And this is just a couple stats from the top 10 online game stores, an average of what they do. And so you can take these and say the key thing to take away from here is really, you're getting a few 100 million eyeballs in places that like Amplify is connected to, right? That's influencers, it's stores, it's game communities, it's that kind of thing. And then, it all kind of trickles down into how much spend per user. And this is how we derive that 225 number of sales, because we wanted to use real numbers of like, what are stores doing out today? And at least have that as a baseline. So we're just not picking a number out of the air and saying, oh, well, we can capture, 5 billion in revenue or only 100 million in revenue. It's like, no, this is based on the kind of audience we can connect with. What's the minimum that we're going to be able to, really get out there and be successful with? And so, we're using blockchain as we're going, and we're using it in a way that's the key here really is, and I know we're kind of running up against time a little bit, so I'll move through these next slides a little quicker. But we're doing it in a way that doesn't require the user or the folks that are the influencers or the gamers to be blockchain savvy, to know about crypto. None of that is important. This is foundational stuff for us that we have in our platform that is making our platform better, and it's building that foundation so that we can do really cool stuff later as we continue to expand the footprint of what Amplify is offering in terms of the overall network. And so you can see things like, hey, how we codify the agreements, and how things like this is about royalties, right? It's like, so you can think about royalties of like how each stakeholder gets their piece of the pie as it goes, and it's all transparent. How you can create all these other monetization options for games that are like, hey, I don't want to be scummy and like manipulate my users into buying something that is like, that's when you see kids that are like, oh, I spent $200 in this game, and what did I really get out of it? With in-game things, it's like, no, they want to do it in a way that feels natural to them, and this is the opportunity to do it. It's like blockchain gives them so many more avenues to make money off of than just kind of like we see loot boxes and these other things that kind of are getting companies in trouble a little bit. And so this goes right into what NFTs are all about. Is fundamentally every item in a game, and the game license itself is an NFT of some kind. Now, it's not a unique NFT necessarily, but it is a non-fungible token, meaning it's just a representation on the blockchain. It's an asset on the blockchain that's recorded. And so this is how we're keeping track of everything on the network. And it gives people the opportunity to, do you want to create a limited edition? Do you want to create one of a kind item on your thing? And do you want to allow those items to be resold? That's the key, is like, hey, I can earn it. Maybe I can earn it in the game, and I can then sell it outside the game. And it still obviously then can be used in the game by whoever bought it, right? And so this is why I think I think about like issues that even we're seeing already with NFTs of like fraud or people stealing them or these kind of things. And games are inherently closed systems. Like the item that if I buy a really cool hat in a game, as an example, and I buy it for $1,000 as an NFT, and it's really unique and it's awesome and it fits with my character in the game. That can only be seen inside the game. So like the game checks, does Tony have that NFT, on the blockchain? Is it registered to him? Yes. Okay, great. Well, then show it in the game. So you don't have this issue of like, oh, is it the real one or not? Because the game is kind of the verification that's constantly verifying that you actually own these things. And so that provides this just like comfort blanket, of like, oh, I don't have to worry about like, oh, what's stolen, what's real, what's not, because it's built in. And so you think about discoverability too. It's like NFTs are gonna be everywhere, right? But everything we have is related to a game. And so, hey, I want to buy stuff from the game. It's all there. Art for the game that's maybe outside, fan art that's an NFT. It's connected to the game, and so the marketplace becomes a whole lot more streamlined. Of like, oh, I want to buy stuff for Fortnite. Oh, I want to buy fan art for Fortnite. Boom, just go to the Fortnite section. Go to the fan art section. There's all the art. You don't have to like sift through what I think is going to be a gargantuan amount of NFTs over time. That are going to be out there. And so, we've got a really well thought out roadmap of how we're going to expand, start out with the MVP of what's really necessary, get the stores, get the influencer connections, the baseline of those two, continue to grow those, expand into more presence in markets like Europe and Asia as we continue to go out, build in the blockchain from the start, but expand into more marketplace kind of stuff over time. There's just a lot of really well thought out things that are going to grow sustainably and grow into the features that we have. And so we have a great team that's got experience from gaming marketplaces, blockchain, marketing in games, really rounding it out so that this is the foundation we're building on to be successful and have the right pieces of the puzzle to make this happen. In the same way, the advisors, we have folks that have been with us for a while on the gaming side, informing us, hey, look, we would buy this product, we would use this, like we would have used this 5 years ago if you had it. And steering us in the right way from a strategy perspective, and not to go down those rabbit holes that are not going to be fruitful. So I just kind of rounded it out. We talked about we're a Blockchain K2 company. A little information about Blockchain K2. We're excited to be part of that family as they're really expanding their vision into games, blockchain. And really that's the future of the gaming industry is going to be integrated with blockchain in some way. And certainly how we can continue to improve those efficiencies, not only with us as a company, but also sister companies as we continue to grow.
All right. Great presentation. Thank you so much. We are out of time, but we do have a few questions. I'll ask one quick question,
sure,
and then the rest of them will be sent directly to you. But when it talks of, in terms of public company capitalization, do you have sufficient funds to grow at this point, and are you looking to raise more funds?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the answer is yes to both of those. We have capital on hand to grow and get this out, and then there also will be a capital raise coming soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Check out the Blockchain K2 website and news from there as the board there is really making some really interesting moves now.
Great. Well, great presentation, Tony, and we look forward to following your updates.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.